Cool. I guess it's
Keep that in.
Are you gonna kick it over to someone else? You're gonna sit there like an idiot.
No, I was going to sit here like an idiot. Mhm.
Where have you been, Jensen?
Who hasn't I'm incredibly tired.
All right, I'm going to do it, and then someone else can do next.
Stunning.
Through that. Sweet.
Right
Awesome.
all
Are
right.
you,
That
are
was-
you going to leave that in, Scott? You caught me off guard there.
on. No, it was fun though. You danced really well.
You definitely said bossy.
Oh, yeah.
He did. He
It was
did.
a, it was a conscious
deliberate?
effort.
Okay,
I was like,
okay.
I'm going with this. I'm just going to run with it.
But you
See
didn't.
if anyone
you didn't,
notices.
You didn't get the spring ping though.
Yeah.
Spring. I didn't get the spring pin. That would have
Or
made
the-
my mouth malfunction. I didn't notice plastic pussy perch.
Thanks, y'all, for riding along with us for episode 101 of the Trap. Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 101 of the Plastic Posse podcast. Thanks for riding along with us as we talk about the best hobby out there, scale modeling. Before we get started, better give a shout out to our Outriders, our Patreon supporters, especially the deputy marshals who help bring you the Plastic Posse, and also give special thanks to our podcast partners, Tankcraft, Tamiya USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive. I hope you're finding some time to spend at your bench. And speaking of benches, let's go around the room and find out what's new with each of you. Anything new you've purchased, new plans, etc.? Let's start with Scott.
I haven't really purchased anything new. I did get some photo etch coming for my group build. We'll talk about that more as we move ahead, but thanks and shout out to Aaron Cook for helping me with that. And Barry Biediger is also working on one of those Martyr 3. So I got one for him as well. It's the heat shield on the muffler for that. So that's the extent of my purchases.
Wow. What are you working on? Well, how's your bench looking?
Bench is good. I've got to get the airbrush out. I've got that Tamiya Panzer 2 that's completed and bought a base for it as well. And then I've got that Das Werk 155 howitzer that's ready for paint. And then here very, very shortly, that Martyr 3 is going to need to be painted too. So it's about time to start painting some stuff. But new bench is working great. It's really comfortable. I'm having a great time on it. So
Awesome. How about you, JB?
Oh, I'm always buying. Retail therapy is just retail with me. It's constant. So, whether it's in person at a hobby shop with Scott in Grand Junction or online, I'm always buying stuff. And let's see, in Grand Junction, there is the Hobby Hut out there, and shout out to that establishment. It's a sweet hobby shop. They have tons of stuff, even the very esoteric aftermarket, all the wares, Royal Model, Archer, all these companies that are kind of hard to find. And I struck gold. And not only did they have the Archer sets I wanted, but they were also on sale, which was great. So I picked up some 1/35th scale foundry markings for Shermans that I've been looking for forever. They also had a little set for the Cobra King and one other vehicle, and then a bunch of welds and rivets. So bottom line, there was some money spent there. And then let's see what else I bought. I actually pulled an audible on the group build. I was going to build a mobile wagon. And then, I didn't notice any L70s being built. And there was one on sale on eBay for a decent price. So I picked that up and it should be here. I think it should be here in the next day or so. It's actually shipping from near Salt Lake. But yeah, that's in terms of retail therapy. And then on the bench itself, we are ripping and roaring on the M1340. Made a lot of progress just within the last week or two on it, and it is nearing completion. I can I'm going to dedicate this holiday weekend to getting the vehicle done at least. I have a base by bases by Bill coming, and then I'm going to do a little scene, and I have a figure from Scale 75. But that project, I'll be honest, I wasn't liking it for a while. And then 2 days ago, I added the tracks to the vehicle, and it started to sing to me, which is great because I was like, man, I am just not liking this. But with the tracks added and with the stowage being dry fitted on, it looks, I think it looks pretty good. And all I need to do is really bring the stowage and tracks together with the vehicle in terms of kind of like that dusty, grimy look for desert. So using a lot of Night Shift inspiration on his Crusader video. So today we'll be getting those external features fixed on and then blend it all together with dust. And after that, I think I'll probably set it aside. Once I get the vehicle done, I'll set it aside for probably a week or two. And then I'll come back to it prior to SMC and essentially just give it a once over, like, okay, is there anything that needs to be tweaked? And I have a figure with it, and ideally I'll have the base done in time by then. So that is the main project thrust, and then I have a few others I'll jump into as well. But yeah, that's all here. Getting a lot of bench time, which I'm super happy about in the evenings. I've been trying to be deliberate about it.
Let's jump to the Atlantic coast with TJ. What's going on in your bench and your purchases?
I haven't bought a whole lot. I'm trying not to because I've got a trip coming up in like 6 weeks. Less than 6 weeks now, maybe. That I know I'm going to buy a lot of crap while I'm there. So just trying to be smart about it. I did buy a display case, or not really a display case. I guess like a travel case from Table War. It's like one of the ones with a plexiglass front. I'm going to try that out. I'm like 99% sure, based on the measurements on their website and based on what I can find on the internet, it should fit underneath the seat in front of me on the airplane. I hope. I don't want to put it in the overhead compartment like I had to last year. So I'm gonna try it out. It wasn't cheap. Yeah, and then shipping was like a third of the cost, which was annoying. But that's been the main thing. I picked up a couple, decal sheets and some other stuff. I bought a kit for our 48 scale group build. I haven't started it yet, but I have it. So after I get to a good spot with my SMC project, I'll probably poke around on that. I mean, it's 48 scale. It's a T55. I built one before, so I know you can literally build it like in an afternoon. There's like 3 sprues to it. So I'll probably mess around with that a little bit. That's pretty much what I got going on.
Well, that T55 is a fun little kit. All right, Grant, what's happening in California?
Like the rest, I haven't really bought too much. I like TJ, I bought a case from Sphere and came from overseas. So like TJ, I spent about $35-40 just on shipping alone. It's nice. It's going to be able to carry figures to MMSI next year to France. So that was kind of cool. Did a little bit of work on figures. Got an idea for a small vignette for MMSI on Try and Goog. I've got till October 20th, I guess. So that's coming up really quick, considering tomorrow is September. And then planning to go to Reno at the end of this month. So that's about it.
All right, Jensen, what's on your bench?
Well, for purchases or new things that have arrived, I've taken possession of 2 new glass display cases that used to be at my granddad's house. Like, one's the very generic like display case that everyone has, and then one's this like really old, built in the like 1800s, very old wooden rickety display case, but it's really big and it's really wide, and it's really good for fitting aircraft in, which my normal display case really isn't. You can get like 2 aircraft per shelf and that's it. On this one you can get about 6 wide, so it's pretty good. Yeah, taken possession of 2 new display cases. Now I just need to fill them with more builds. I've also bought 2 more kits for this 48th build because, 3 builds isn't ambitious when you've got 6 weeks till SMC and a build that's not finished yet. I also, a bit like TJ was mentioning, I've bought a cabin case to take on the plane for my models, which is like a heavy-duty equipment foam padded thing. Usually photographers use them for like camera equipment or anything like that. So I've got that arriving in a couple of days. Hopefully that will fit a few builds in. But speaking of builds, not really been working on anything since the last episode because this room has just been a bit of a mess, and I can't work in the mess, and I've been busy with lots of other life stuff. So purchases, yes, organizing stuff, but yeah, not actually doing any physical modeling. But yeah, hopefully that will change now that the room's like perfect now.
Wonderful. All right. For me, I've been working on that. Messerschmitt is getting real close. And I started the 48 scale Nashorn for our group build. I'm excited about that one. I've always loved the Nashorn. I've got a barrel on the way, so should have that soon. And as far as purchases, I wasn't planning on buying anything, but Scott had to send me a link to the lightning deals at Sprue Brothers, and they had the who's the manufacturer, Scott? I drew a blank. I've never
on
built
on the Hellcat.
Yeah,
It's a Dragon Cyber Hobby. Yeah,
Cyber Hobby. Okay, it's Dragon. Anyway, so the Cyber Hobby 72nd scale Hellcat was on there for $15. So I already ordered that, but you can't just pay $10 shipping for a $15 kit. So I had to throw another kit in there. I've got an Edward 190A coming. So, because I don't have enough 190s. Anyhow, that is what I've got going on. And let's move over to TJ. He's going to introduce our next little section here.
Yeah, so let's go around the room. We'll talk about some models posted in our Facebook group that we liked, and I'm going to go ahead and change the order here. I'm going to go first because I'm going to pick Frank Perone's 48 scale T34-85. He's just started doing some OPR on it, last night or this morning. I didn't see when he posted. I think he posted the pictures this morning. And it's awesome. Frank's a good dude and an amazing modeler. So in Russian, 4BO, I think is kind of like his thing. He's really, really good at it. He's good at everything that he does, but his 4BO sings, I love it. And I love his weathering style. So yeah, props to him.
That caught my eye as well, TJ. I really like the dust and some of the dirt tones up in the recessed areas on the whole. Man, it looks sharp.
Well, go ahead, Scott. Since you started talking, go ahead and tell us what your favorite one was.
Yeah, what caught another model that caught my eye was Zach Pease. He's been working on the Clear Prop 148 scale I-16. He's done it in Chinese markings, and man, it looks really, really good. He's got a kind of a two-tone green camouflage look to it, and a lot of soot on it, and weathering. It just looks really, really good. It's a sharp little airplane. Great job on that, Zach.
Jensen, what about you, buddy?
For me, I kind of breaking tradition. I'm going to go with an aircraft. I had to choose John Bryan's quote mediocre Tamiya Mosquito. Just mosquitoes are awesome. Like twin engined aircraft is like, and the Tamiya kit is really good. But John to say his cockpits are usually mediocre, nonsense. It's just beautifully painted, beautifully detailed. He's done really good work for this because you can see quite a lot of it in the Mosquito. It's got quite a big glass framing, but you can see he's put great effort in. He puts great effort into all of his builds, and I've appreciated the tail correction he's done because apparently the Tamiya kit is 2 mil too tall in the tail. I love watching John's process of how he goes about building models, and this one for the 48th build is great to see.
Grant, what caught your eye?
I like the Mad Genius Productions AAT droid tank from Star Wars. It's always a cool vehicle. I think JB, didn't you build one at one time? I think you did, yeah. And but this is a cool build, great color. He's actually got leaves on the top of it. I really like the way he did the tones, the little weathering and chipping on it was done really well, and it's just a really, really good build.
What about you, JB?
I picked Rob Herring's the Tamiya figure set. They're late war German. Man, I tell you what, he not only painted them phenomenally, but the composition of the little vignette he did, it's great. I think they're the best Tamiya figures I've seen painted in a long, long time. And they're really gorgeous. And I'm super excited. He's joined the episode 100 group build as well. So Rob's work is like super subtle, and his figures and the Tamiya. I mean, Tamiya needs to contact and be like, hey, bro, we want to put this on a box for the box art, or at least from a marketing standpoint, because they just look really good. And I'm super stoked that he posted them in our group and is participating in our group because, man, I need an article on it. I want a movie or a video, I should say, on it because they're just subtle and super nice. So shout out to Rob. Keep posting.
All right, to bring us home, what about you, Doug?
I picked Eric Semmelmeyer's 135th scale Asuka M4A1 Sherman. Beautifully done, beautifully weathered. The stowage looks really sharp on it. Just a wonderful, wonderful job he did on it. I love it.
Yeah, I saw that too, both in our group and the modeling the Sherman tank and scale group. It's pretty well done. And I don't think he does a lot of allied armor. I think that's what he said in the post, but if he doesn't, he should do more because it was pretty badass.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Displaying a model on a base is a great way to showcase a build and have it stand out, whether on the show table or just on your shelves at home. If you find yourself in need of a display base worthy of your models, Bases by Bill has the solution for you. Their quality bases are a perfect way to display and enhance any special model you have. From US and Japanese carrier decks to custom-sized cherry hardwood bases, Bases by Bill display bases are available for any type of model and for any size. Bases by Bill is now a US reseller for one-man army high-definition laser-cut painting masks, which bring incredible detail to your model without the tedium of using scores of decals. And right now, all one-man army orders include free shipping. Check out their website at basesbybill.com to see all of their fine modeling related products. Bases by Bill for all your model display needs.
All right. Scott and JB want to talk a little bit about our episode 100 group build. Take it away, guys.
Yeah, you guys out there have probably heard about this little group build we have going on. I'm going to let JB talk some numbers here in a second, but man, just have to give a shout out to the Posse. You guys have brought support to this thing like we've never seen before. Incredible. Lots of great updates, lots of great pictures, just a lot of great community activity. It's really, really awesome. We started that the last episode when we dropped, and it goes for a few days. JB will talk more about that, but keep up the great work out there. It's awesome to see all the builds and just exciting to see the whole community kind of rallying around a build like this. Just incredible. Anyway, JB, give us some numbers on this crazy thing.
Yeah, so I'm shout out to Scott for scrolling through 2 weeks worth of posts to create the initial list, which numbered, when I talked to him, I was like, hey, thanks for doing this. How many we got? About a 150? He's like, no, it's like near 250. And I'm like, holy shit. So right now, I just did the latest count. I'm trying to keep track every day. So if you're a new participant, please post in the group build. Please hashtag Posse, 100 Posse GB. But also, I'd like to ask every week, I'm going to set a reminder in the group to check this spreadsheet where I'm tracking, because Facebook sometimes, I don't know if it's the algorithm or what, sometimes we just don't see all those posts. And I just like to ask a kind reminder that those participating, just give the Google Sheet of review, look to see if your name, subject are there. If they're not there, please, comment on the post. And if they are there and there needs to be an update, obviously comment on the post as well. But, as Scott said, there's a lot of people that we know and love in the group build. But I think more importantly, it just shows the growth of the community. And there's a lot of new names, which is great, too. A lot of people saying, this is the first time I've done a group build. I'm jumping in. Fantastic. That's what we love to see. And then we got people like Whitey, who has preached every episode of The Geeks. I'm never doing a group build again. Yet that Boston is in our group build. So super excited to see him a part of this, and the Abrams that he's really cranking on. So shout out to him and the rest of the geeks, the Insanity, Barry. We got a lot of community support, not only from our listeners and the broader hobby community, but podcasters as well. So really excited to see that. And just, again, shows the strength of what we're trying to create here. In terms of the spread of individuals, not only where they're coming from, but also look at age demographics. We have a class of students that are going to participate, which is amazing. And then we also have all the way up to a 90-year-old gentleman. So it's awesome that he's going to be building with his son, who was part of the group build. So again, you can't deny that this is amazing and really just spreads across genres, across demographics, and super excited for it. So as a reminder, we kicked off the 21st, as Scott mentioned, during the last episode drop, and it'll go 6 weeks. So this is meant to be a very tight group build. It's not meant to drag on for months, have super complicated kits, and get bogged down. This is something that, hey, clear the bench, do something fresh, dare I say, slam it together. And the deadline is October 2nd. It will be midnight Pacific time. So you East Coasters get an extra 3 hours. In terms of submissions, we'll create some more formal details around that. But what I suspect is we'll ask you to post it in the group. And then I'm also probably going to ask you to message me your address, because if you finish, you'll get a Plastic Posse challenge coin. And by the time this episode drops, I should be sharing pictures of a poker chip that we had made specifically for this. Shout out to Peter Fidlowski for his amazing artwork. He answered the call as always. But for those individuals curious, this is all happening in the Facebook group page. It's under hashtag 100 Posse GB. Please, if you post anything related to the group build, just throw that hashtag on there. It's an easy way to follow. As mentioned, you'll get a poker chip, you'll get a coin, maybe a nice little message. Any Tamiya 140A scale armor or aircraft, military vehicle, I should say, counts. And then in terms of what's at stake, it's just building the community. But we do have some special folks that are going to be helping us. I don't even want to say judge, because it's more or less just looking at everyone's work, providing some feedback, and then picking their favorites. And that's really what it comes down to. Is, hey, what do they enjoy the most? So we got Lufram and Sam on the aircraft side. And on the armor side, we have Lawler, Martin, Wilder, and Spud. So it's got a great lineup of judges. I don't even like to say judges. I just like to say special guests that'll pick some favorites, provide some feedback, and we're just going to have fun with it. And then what I suspect is we'll also have some special awards as well, whether the ones, us individuals liked, or maybe there's some theme awards we'll throw together. But bottom line is we're just looking to have fun. This is a zero pressure thing. If you don't finish, that's cool. Don't worry about it. But if you want to finish on time, the deadline is October 2nd at midnight Pacific time. With that, if no one has any other inputs, I'll kick it over to Grant to talk about upcoming shows.
All right. So these are the upcoming shows we have. September 21st is the IPMS Reno High Rollers annual show. For more details, check out IPMS Reno High Rollers on Facebook or message Cody Kaczynski. Also on September 21st is the IPMS SLC 2224 show in West Jordan, Utah. Details can be found at the IPMS-SLC Facebook page or contact Cameron Corliss. On September 27th and 28th, the Central Arkansas modelers will be hosting RockCon, formerly Sprue Doo. Look for more information on our Facebook page, on their Facebook page, Central Arkansas Modelers, or our webpage at passmodeling.org. Please remember to send your upcoming shows and events to plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com, and we will add them to our calendar on our Facebook page.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. The first discussion point is just JB and I needed to hand off some stuff to go to shows, to go to SMC and everything. So we started kind of talking about Grand Junction, and it's kind of halfway between Denver and Salt Lake. And JB's wanted to go check out a facility over there called Panzer Fabrik, which is a great little organization where they build and restore, tanks and armor personnel carriers. And we went over there and just had an amazing visit. We were met at the shop. Yeah, Randy met us and could not have been a nicer gentleman. Just was very, very generous. Opened up his shop. He has a Panzer IV. He's got a Polish T-34-85. He's got a Panzer II Lux that he put together, and he's going to be building a couple more of those. He had an M113. He's working on right now a Stug 4, restoration, putting that all together with original parts primarily, and just an incredible shop, an incredible owner who's got a real passion for what he does. We were there for, I think, 2.5 hours, and just could not have been a more interesting visit. Think scale modeling kind of dedication to your craft, but in 1-to-1 scale. Just really, really terrific visit. We posted some albums and some pictures online. And also, in the future, there may be some Posse activities where we go over and give them a hand. They have work and social days where you go over for the weekend, you hang out, you work on tanks, and, hang out and barbecue with the guys and everything. And, if there's a way that we can support, Randy and his efforts, it sounds like a lot of fun. But anyway, just a great, great time that we had. And JB, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. As Scott mentioned, it's a small shop in Delta, Colorado. I thought it was in Grand Junction, but he had moved about 45 minutes away, which wasn't bad. As Scott noted, we met for breakfast. Scott's son tagged along as well, Dusty, and we had a great day. I had no idea what to expect. I told Scott, hey, dude, I don't know what we're showing up to. There could be some tanks there. There could not be. There's just nondescript building in Delta, Colorado, and we're just going to roll with it. So we end up going there, and it was quite amazing. Scott had mentioned Randy met us outside, and we walk in the door, and we're like, holy shit, that's a Panzer IV. That's a T-34. There's a big red oxide hull. That was a Stug 4. And for those interested, this is Randy's personal passion. Panzer Fabrik, I guess you could call, is a small business, but he's really known for Panzers. Go figure. One of his works is up in Ottawa at their museum. He has a Panzer III he had based off of, I believe, an FV432, and cosmetically restored it to a Panzer III configuration that runs up there. But I will say the Panzer IV I consider it a Panzer IV. This is really interesting. We had a discussion about, there in the aircraft community, you can do a data plate restoration, and it's considered a P38, P51, as long as you have like the data plate, and they build everything around it. And they use very little, original parts. Look at Glacier Girl is a good example. It's interesting on the military vehicle side because I feel like it's a different standard in a sense, where this Panzer IV, and I'm calling it a Panzer IV, people may argue, well, it's a repro. I don't believe so. I mean, he's using original parts to fab these vehicles. He's using original parts wherever he can. So roof plate, Scherzen, interior components. Really, the only thing that isn't authentic is the drivetrain. And that's just because, 70-year-old, 80-year-old drivetrains are, one, hard to come by. Two, we've progressed a lot since then. And if you want to run these vehicles, you got to update them. So his Panzer IV, from a cosmetic perspective, best looking Panzer IV in the world, no question. No, I'm not even going to argue that. But the coolest part about this whole trip was, we get there, we start looking, and I'm like, hey, I got to ask the question. We're here. Do you mind if I climb in? He's like, oh yeah, let's do this. He's like, don't be afraid to scratch it, nick it up, because he wants his vehicles to look worn and used. So I climbed all over and inside the Panzer IV. What was great is when we were there, I'd sit in every position. I was the only one I didn't sit in was the radio operators, because you have to be the size of a twig to be in there. I honestly don't know how someone would sit in there. If that vehicle gets hit, hey, there's your casket, because you ain't getting out. But in the driver's compartment, in the turret, going to those different stations, I sat in the turret with him for probably 20 minutes, and Scott was right outside, and just, what's this? What's that? And he knows the details, like these little things, like what's this knob for? What's this little mechanism? What's this chain for? And we walked through all of it. Also, how do we operate the armored, visor covers? Oh, you pull this out, push it up, or push these pins in, and then that'll slide up for the hull the hull driver's vision. So bottom line, it was not only a cool trip to see these vehicles, but also to, just literally touch them and walk through each vehicle, understand, how it was operated. The Panzer II Lukes, now I will say that's a complete fab job. So the Panzer IV, I consider a Panzer IV. Panzer II Lukes is a 1-to-1 scale replica down to like everything. The only tell on the Panzer II is the track teeth. So on the track teeth on a real Panzer II, they're kind of like flat. His are pointed. And because they're like a custom track he found in France, where a guy wanted them for a tractor or something, so he like based it off of a Panzer II track he had, I assume from Normandy, but put different teeth on it. It's like a really wild story. And Randy said basically like, hey, to do this, the tracks are like the most important things. He's like, I can build a vehicle around the track. And that's kind of what happened with the Panzer II Lukes. So he's got one, he's got two more he's going to do. But again, he went to Bovington. I think he was at Samur as well. And in Bovington, he measured the whole thing. And that helped fab the Panzer II Lukes. And they're runners. I think he's doing a Netflix movie coming up next weekend. He's going to pull out the Panzer II, the Panzer IV, and the T-34. Also climbed in T-34, which is like a mansion compared to the Panzer IV because it's a lot bigger inside. But bottom line is, it was a fun trip. Definitely going to organize some sort of posse event out there. I even told Scott, like, God, the Friday before Commies Fest, we could do a brutal day where we wake up at 5 a.m. like I did this time. We run out there. Scott can meet us halfway. We can go to Panzer Fabrik on Friday and then come back that evening and be at my house by 7, 8 o'clock at night. So a lot of options there. And it's one of those places where you can actually just, again, touch everything. And then he's like, hey, I got to pull out this APC, the Lynx prototype. He's like, I got to pull it out to put this like armored cover thing on for the M113. I got to bring it inside. Y'all want to go for a ride? And we're like, yeah. So, we backed out the Lynx and rolled down the street. And bottom line, he's a gracious host. Really shows how small the community is too, because the gentleman, I'm going to say Presmik, but that's not how you say his name. He's a Polish gentleman that supports, I believe, Panzer Farm, and he's doing the 1/35th scale CAD renders for Stug 4, he's helping Randy a lot on his Stug 4. So it's just really crazy how small the modeling and like real life community is. And also just random Grand Junction, Delta, Colorado. There's like 7 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon style. We all know each other. But bottom line, it'll be great. I look forward to visiting again. And I hope to get there with more people.
Yeah, John, that's a good point. You know, it reminded me of the shop up in Seattle that was restoring the Zero. They're all scale modelers, but they're also passionate about, you know, doing the 1-to-1 scale restorations. And it's pretty amazing how everybody knows everybody else. You know, the one of the gentlemen that owned that company knew Whitey. You know, just like you said, it's a really small community, and Randy could not have been more gracious and more generous with his time. It was a great visit. Can't wait to visit again.
I just want to say something. I thought it was kind of funny. I would love to be a neighbor there and just see a Lynx driving up and down the road in front of my house. I mean, Scott hanging out there just taking pictures of JB in the back, and that has to be that's so cool. That was such a cool video.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And next time he's like, yeah, next time I'll better prepare, and we have access to the river right here. We can take it out and rip down the river a couple miles and come back. I'm like, that sounds fun. We can do that. That'd be great. I mean, yeah, Scott was pulling his best Playboy centerfold, pose on it. I mean, that front, he was sticking that leg out, showed some inner thigh. I mean, he was milking that pose. You should have saw it. Some locals came by. One girl asked, "Can I get up there and take a picture with him?" It was wild. So Scott was in his element. I don't think his son ever saw him as vulnerable, but it was great. It was a lot of fun.
No, it was great.
Leaving that in, right?
Yeah. There were people just walking by when he gave us a ride. I don't remember the designation, but there was an offshoot of the M113 that went into a competition against the M114 and lost, but going for a ride, there were people that walked by and he let him get up there and sit in it and everything. It was just really cool. People are really interested in what he does. And man, just to have the passion and, the wherewithal to do that. He knew the guys down at Battlefield Vegas. He'd done some trading with them on some vehicles. And, like John said, he knew some of the guys over in Europe as well. So just a great guy. And Randy, if you ever hear this, just tip of the hat to you on the quality of your work and your attention to detail. Just amazing stuff.
I'll throw out one thing before we left. He's like, "Hey, I want to show you this one small room." Okay, cool. And we go in this room and he's just got like German all over it, like Ostketten tracks, or Winterketten, I should say. And it was interesting because he actually had a sample set, probably of 6 or 7 links, where they took a acetylene torch and cut off the Winterketten tips. You see it in some photos, but he actually had an example there. And then a single link that was preserved, but he had a bunch of tracks. So I was like, that's a Panther track. That's a Tiger track. He's like, yeah, I had a track thing for a while, so I just have some tracks. MG34 laying on the ground, Bosch headlights, radio sets. And again, he's into the minutia. So I hope to have him on, actually. We talked about having him on and talking, and it'd be great to learn more about his story and what he's creating down in Grand Junction /Delta.
I guess it's time for feedback, wouldn't you say? I've got a few here. It was kind of hard to sort through all of the group build submissions, that everybody started sharing with us. But here we go. I'm going to start with our friend Bob Bear, the voice of Bob. Hey, guys. Has it really been 100 episodes? I could swear you guys have been on for 10 years. Congrats on 100 episodes, guys. I've listened to every single one, sometimes twice, only when I doze off. Always a great listen, great guests, great subjects. Only way to improve it would be to have me on an episode. I think we can arrange that. I consider each and every one of you my friends, and really that's what it's all about. Keep rolling. That's
crazy. I thought we had Bob. We've work with him at some of the shows we've been to and everything, but we'll have to get Bob on to get those smooth pipes on the show.
That's right. Our friend Adam Jackson shared, "Hi, Triple P folks, listening to number 100 and wanted to share my gratitude. You've created an amazing community and culture that I'm blessed to be a part of. I'm tremendously thankful to have met each of you. I never knew when I started this hobby that I would not only find a place of solace and joy, but all new friends to share that joy. Thank you and keep up the amazing work." Let's go to Greg James shared something. We're going to talk a little bit about this because this was an idea regarding the group build. He says, attention Posse. And I had an idea today regarding the hashtag 100 Posse group build. I bounced this off the model shaman Scott Gentry, and I gather from his reaction that I didn't steal it from anybody, and he's okay with it since he's told me to post it up. In line with the true spirit of the Plastic Posse podcast, I propose that everyone who participates in the group build, upon completion of their build, give it to one of their fellow Posse members. Someone who you would probably never have met if the Posse had not happened. Someone who you have a relationship with now in the model world and beyond that you appreciate and value. In my mind, this would be something that we would announce if you choose once the build is complete. That way, there is no expectation or pressure to finish before the deadline. In fact, I guess if you don't finish in time, you can still give it away when it's finished, if it's ever finished. I suggested this solely in the spirit of sharing and giving with friends. I don't intend or want this to be some sort of popularity contest. I just think it makes this group build even cooler and more special for this occasion. Handing these finished models off to the recipient at a future show or get together is going to be cool. What do y'all think?
I think it's a great idea. You know, we're going to try and get together as many of these as we can at the Rocky Mountain Expo next June, and hoping to get a few of those together. But yeah, absolutely. We love to exchange models with each other, and I think it's a great idea. So, let's get the community behind it.
Yeah, I mentioned in that post in the Facebook group that I'd give mine away. I don't want it. I don't keep most of my models anyway. So yeah, we're not technically entering it, in the contest or however you want to call it. So yeah, I'll give it away. I don't know who or how, but I'll figure something out. Someone will go home with it at some point.
Yeah, I also have a bunch of 48 scale kits I've built in the past. I'm happy to send those to good homes. And as TJ mentioned, we're not entering. I should have said this earlier. We're not entering our own group build. We don't do that. That's weird. We don't enter our own contests. So you'll see no Triple P hosts in the running for prizes, but certainly will help in giving more away. But yeah, going back to the original statement, certainly we're gonna exchange some built kits.
All righty. With that, that's our feedback for today. Thank you, everybody. If you want to share your feedback, please drop it on the Plastic Posse Facebook page, or you can email us at plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com.
The Plastic Posse podcast is sponsored by Tankcraft. In addition to their awesome cutting mats, Tankcraft also makes some incredible scale modeling tools for your workbench. Want to keep extra thin cement off your bench and in the bottle where it belongs? Check out Tankcraft Glue Base, designed to stop glue spills in their tracks. The glue base is made from solid milled aluminum and comes with a stable rubber base pad and can accommodate most square and round cement bottles. And while you're there, check out their line of cutting mats and other unique modeling tools. Remember, Posse listeners get 15% off their first order by using the code POSSE15. So head on over to tankcraft.com. That's TANKRAFT.com.
Moving on, JB has our second discussion topic.
Yeah, this was just thought of last night. For me, the focus of this topic is really managing stress and anxiety related to the hobby. I think, let's be honest, I think the group build probably gives some people anxiety. Certainly upcoming shows and competitions, SMC, really weighing on myself, probably TJ and Jensen as well. So I think the discussion here is just around how do you manage the stress? Do you get stressed out? And if you do, what are some ways that you kind of successfully get through it? And maybe I'll just start and then I'll kick it over. I'll give it to Scott next. I'm saying his name because he's got to think in his mind what he's going to prepare for it. But essentially managing stress in the hobby. I'll call out SMC as a good example. We are, 50 days away from that show. For me, it's looking at, okay, I have X many days, Y many weekends, Z many weekdays. So thinking about all these things and you're like, holy cow, this is stacking up a lot in terms of obligations outside of the hobby and being able to budget enough time and energy to complete something to take to this show that you've had all year to prepare for, but all of a sudden it's up your and you don't know what you're going to do. So for me, in terms of managing the stress and just kind of getting through all of it. Oh, by the way, there's a group build in there too on the road to SMC. It's starting to write things down. I find, daily kind of goals, weekly goals for that matter, and then also planning. I think one thing that helps me a lot, and especially to get me really efficient, is plan. And for the M1340 is a good example. Fortunately, I've done really good planning. I've thought really like, okay, this is what I'm going to do tonight. I need X number of hours to do it. And I've just gotten really methodical about it and deliberate. Maybe that's the best word to use, is deliberate about scale modeling. And, once, I'm sure we'll hear a comment or someone will say, well, once you start treating the hobby like a job, then it doesn't become fun. Well, I get motivated that way, to be honest. I look at SMC as kind of like, hey, this is, dare I say, the Olympics of scale modeling, which is because it's international, it's the best of the best, and I'm just hoping to, show up and not carry someone's bag. But bottom line is, like, when I look at shows like that, they're extremely motivating for me, and to plan and to really, the planning portion as well is really motivating, because when you put the plan together and you start checking those boxes, you gain momentum and it just keeps building and building. So for me, managing the stress is around understanding the tasks at hand, planning to execute on them, and then just getting those small victories every day. And if something doesn't go right, that's okay. I mean, I've had many things not go right on the M1340. I actually, set it down, take a step back, and just take a deep breath. And then I'll be honest, I get back at it. Sometimes, very rarely these days, actually, I'm like, oh, I'll just put it away for the week or the day. But I found myself like sitting here, I'm like, oh, I accomplished what I wanted to. Well, let's just keep going. So I guess always have that plan for not only the day, but what's the next day look like? Because you might finish it early and get into it. So that's kind of how I manage the stress. And then I also know when to call it quits. Good example. And I'm really embarrassed about this story too. At the IPMS Nationals last year, Andy gave me that new 251 from Das Work. I was like, oh, I'll have this done for SMC. Well, here we are over a year later, and the thing is still in the box, half done. And it's embarrassing. And that one has stressed me out, because it was like, oh man, he gave this to me, I didn't get it done. I planned to get it done. But at that moment, when it was leading up to SMC, there's probably 3 weeks before SMC where I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to get this done. And I'm okay with that. Put it in the box. And unfortunately, it stayed there. But it's knowing your limits as well and just being okay with it. And it goes for the group build too. If you're coming up on like September 29th, October 1st, and you're not done, you can blast and get it done. But if you don't finish, that's cool too. It's okay. Just post where you finished, because there's no point in, losing sleep over it, which I have actually recently, unfortunately, just for scale modeling. But that's why we talk about these things. I've said enough. Scott, over to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple different things. First of all, kind of taking inspiration from TJ and JB. I've started walking like every single day over the last 3 months. And I've noticed that when you start to feel better, you're more productive. And, maybe that's not for everybody, but that's certainly been the case for me. I make sure every day to get, 2 to 5 miles in every day, and I just feel better. And so things are going good. I'm not very good at planning like JB, but one thing I have done is I recently put in a new bench, and I really tried to put a lot of thought into where everything went and where everything needs to be when I'm modeling to make myself more efficient. And that's really, really made a difference. It isn't, I don't know that it increases my output as much as it just makes me happier. When I'm at the bench, I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing, not drifting like TJ over there trying to be the next Mike McElhaney with his bench recently, but, trying to keep things where I'm comfortable and I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So I want to be at the bench. So it's a lot easier to go down there and do the work that needs to be done when you're having a good time. And then I would say the last thing is just try not to stress too much, but to use the shows that you're going to and the events that you're going to as motivation to kind of push you and help you, and try to, at least for me, try to look at it that way. That helps me. But anyway, that's what it is for me. TJ, I don't know what sorry about the Mike McElhaney thing, but what are some tips you have?
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. When JB mentioned that he wanted to talk about this, I thought it was really good. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm not very actually good at doing this. I don't know. That's weird. Like in my professional life, I handle stress very, very well. I am known as a calming presence for a number of people. When people I work with and people that work for me, they're having a hard time and they're stressed out, I am usually pretty good at talking them down. Bring it down. It's okay. Like we'll get through this. There's very few, like in the construction industry, the one thing everyone always says, the jobs always get finished. They always get done. And sometimes reminding people that can bring it down. There's very few things that you can not recover from in what I do for a living. I'm not as good at that when it comes to my modeling, because I will just be like, yep, we're done. The Musa roof from a couple years ago. Nope. Yep. Just couldn't do it. I put it off. And I was like, I'm running out of time. I hated the kit, was not interested in it. And the stress got too much to me. I gave up. I normally don't do that. Like I said, professional me does not do that. I will not give up. Hobby me, I will give up. And then for me, like you kind of mentioned using shows, to help set goals. Like I both despise and love deadlines. I hate them because they cause me stress. I'm like, oh, I got plenty of time. And then, as the amount of work doesn't shrink, but the timeline shrinks, and you're like, oh, I don't have as much time as I thought I did. But then in the same breath, that gives me an end date. Because if I have an open-ended commitment, I will not do it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I just keep pushing off. And I don't like doing that, but when I know, like, I have to get this done, the day before we leave, this is for SMC, everything I have has to be packed in its box, and that's it. So I have a hard date, and I plan on, obviously doing that. But like JB said, if I don't, okay, I'll bring it to the next show that I go to, whatever. I have other stuff to take with me to SMC. So it's not like I'm going to go empty handed. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really answer the question. I don't think I don't have a good way of managing the stress and the anxiety it comes with wanting to finish things for a deadline. But I guess you can kind of look at it like that old cliche, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So that's kind of what I've been doing with my Sherman and breaking it down. Like, okay, like this weekend, I primed it last night. It's 100% primed. It's all good. I got to correct a few things on the body. I'm off Monday. So by Monday night, my goal, hopefully I meet it, will be have it base coated and chipped, because it's got like a chipped paint job. That's the goal. If I can get at least part the way there, because there's two colors, it's got like a dark green underneath and light green on top. If I can get the dark green down at least and chipped to the rust coat underneath, I'll be happy. To be really, really happy would be the top color on too. And I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't have a lot going on, so hopefully it will. So it's kind of, I guess, like JB said, making a list. I'm not actually writing this down, although someone did give me that recommendation, and it wasn't you, JB. It was someone else. I think Chris Medding said that to me when I was talking to him about it. We were chatting back and forth the other day, and that's what he said. He's like, yeah, just make a list. Because I told him I don't know, I'm stressed. I don't feel like I know I have enough time, but I don't feel like I am going to get it done. And he's like, yeah, just write a list of everything you need to do and just check the things off as you go. And then it'll be easy. I'm like, oh, that's actually not a bad idea.
That's something Josh Buck does really well. He journals, and I think I mentioned it before, something I really admire. And I just have been really, really bad at adding that to my skill set. I just don't do it. And I think it would be really, really helpful. And by the way, social media shout out, Chris's new podcast, Scale Model Philosopher. There's an episode where Marin Van Gils and Barry Biediger have an awesome conversation about storytelling. So check that out if you get a chance. It's a really good podcasting. I enjoyed it immensely. Well, Doug, what about you?
Well, a lot of you know that I have a lot of self-confidence issues when it comes to a lot of things that I do. And this is something I've dealt with my whole life. And I stress over this a lot. I stress over doing this podcast. I stress over building models to show other people. I stress because I never feel like I'm reaching a level that I want to be at, and sometimes I fall into that trap of comparing myself to what other people are doing, and it's not the best thing. It's obviously not a good thing to do. I don't know. It's hard to describe. A lot of people will step up and try to encourage me, and that's great. I appreciate it, but it's something that I need to deal with on a personal level, so that I can overcome that, because I know what I do. I do good models. I know that, but I also know that I stress myself out because I want to do what TJ's doing, or what JB's doing, or what Grant's doing with his figures. Any of you guys, Jensen and Scott, you guys both do amazing work. And I just feel like I'm down below looking up at you guys in your quality of work. And it's a bad place to be. I finally, when I'm in a good place, I need to set myself straight and tell myself not to worry about it, because it's not about what you guys are doing or how I'm doing compared to what you guys are doing. It's about me finding the peace in this hobby, which is always there, because I love it. I can sit down and like JB was saying, you can find yourself setting a goal to get to a point and then not wanting to stop. And I do that all the time. When I start working on a model, my wife will be getting up out of bed at midnight saying, "Are you ever coming to bed?" Because I didn't know that I'd been working on it for 3 hours. I just started working and I'm having fun. I'm feeling good, and I go. And so I think I would say I manage the stress by not worrying about what other people are doing, improving where I can, finding those resources to help me improve and do the work. And if it doesn't turn out as good as what other people are doing, that's fine. I mean, right on the other side of the monitor I'm looking at right now is the little tortoise that I did. And it's not up to the standard of most like figure painters, but I look at that and I'm incredibly proud of that little tortoise bust. He was fun to do, and I did things I'd never tried before. So, that's a positive. That's something that I can feel really good about. Anyhow, that's how I go. That's the way I do it. I just don't sweat what other people are doing most of the time. But as far as entering models, like if I was going to SMC or MMSI, I think my approach would be don't even bring anything. That would be my way of just saying, you know what, if I don't feel that confident, well, I'm not there for myself. I'm there to see what other people are doing. So that would be my way of approaching that. Anyhow, enough about me. Let's move on to Jensen. Jensen, how do you deal with stress in the hobby?
Well, first, I just want to go back to TJ saying he's a calming presence. It's a shame he's not like that when it comes to catching flights.
Hey, I was pretty calm.
You were calm. I was looking at my watch every 5 seconds. But yeah, stress. It's. I can summarize it really quick, but it's kind of what TJ said. It's gonna get done, so chill out. It's what I need to tell myself. And like, whenever anyone in my family or whatever pesters me to do anything, I'm just like, it's gonna get done. Like, it doesn't matter how many. You don't need to keep asking, because it's going to get done at some point. When that is, don't know, but it'll get done. So yeah, obviously a while back I used to do a lot of articles for like magazines and stuff, and they had relatively loose but still solid deadlines. Yeah, they had pretty solid but loose deadlines. And I seem to kind of do my best work under that. I don't want to say pressure, because it wasn't pressure, but it was knowing that the model wasn't just for me. I wasn't doing it because it was enjoyable. It was because someone was relying on me to finish it, write about it, and take photos of it and send it to someone else so they could do their magic and publish it. And I kind of like applying that same mentality to these shows. Like the first Nats in Omaha, I think I did 5 builds for that show specifically. That's like
turned out to be what, 4.5 after Dublin?
Yeah. R.I.P. I'll never forget that. Yeah, my 4.5 builds. It was a blessing in disguise, really. Got a medal for it. But yeah, the builds I took for Nats, that was good because I was building them for the show that had a deadline, and I think in that final like 4-week run up to going to the US, I was like every single day just plowing through getting builds done. So I think if I'm given too much slack on the line to just do it when you do it, or there's no deadline, or there's no event, just do it because you want to or because you can, I choose not to, because it's less like, well, it doesn't need to be done, so I won't. And that's a weird thing for a hobby that you do because you like doing it. I just for some reason I'm most productive when there is that element of pressure. I think pressure's the wrong word. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but there's an end goal rather than just a finished model.
Like urgency, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because granted, for the past 5 weeks I haven't modeled, but that's because of life stuff with people. Things have settled down now, so I'm hoping with SMC approaching quicker than time is actually moving, I can just get my head down and plow through now. Because I know in my head I'm like, okay, there's a lot to do, which I'm starting to freak myself out about, because I'm like, the model's not even a set. You don't even have wheels on the tank yet. You're not going to do this. But then I'm just like, I know what I can do, and I know for a fact I can get that build done. I can get that vignette finished, figures painted. I could probably do another build to go to SMC in that time. I just need to get my ass in gear and get it done. But sometimes I'm too relaxed. I'm just like, 6 weeks. I know what I can do in 6 weeks. I'll have a few days off. And it's just like, and all of a sudden, 3 weeks have gone and I've done nothing. So I just need to be a bit more mindful of, actually, that time's going quicker than you think. Just refocus.
It's interesting you say that. On the new group build, picking Tamiya 48 scale subjects, one of the reasons were kind of this very thing. We wanted a group build where we could set a deadline that was kind of tight, but have it still be achievable. That was kind of some of the purpose behind that. And that's something that, we thought about. So interesting.
Ran, how about you? How do you manage the stress?
Oh boy. Okay. So, guys, everybody has given great examples. Scott, I've also started walking about a month and a half now. I'm walking 4 or 5 days a week, about 2 miles after work or before, depending on what time of the day it is. And that helps. That's definitely a stress reliever. Trust me. I don't note, like most people, I don't have a plan going into something. I take notes after the day is done with the work. So if that makes sense, I work and then I say, okay, this is how far I got. This is what I did. This is how I did it. Yada, yada, yada. And then the next day I'll look at that and say, okay, this is how far I got to this point. Let's see how far I can get today. So I don't set a goal. I want to get the tracks on, or I want to get this flesh all painted or whatever. I just kind of go at the end of the day. I just kind of reverse note it. And I've done that ever since I was in the military. And that's just something that I don't know why I do it that way. Because plans are everything in the military, but I just kind of set my goals in my head that way. I think the biggest thing the biggest thing about stress and managing the anxiety and everything is just being flexible. I think the being flexible with your subject, with what you're doing, is more important than anything else. And I don't mean being flexible as in, I'm just going to start another model right now. I just mean being flexible with your build. JB has a great example of this when he's talking about his 1314, where he said that, he just put it away for a couple of days, then he'll come back to it. That's being flexible, in my opinion. And he knows what he's doing. He knows going back to it. TJ, the same with the paint, his paint, what he plans to do this weekend. That's being flexible. He has a goal, but if he gets to one point, he's going to be happy. If he gets to another point, he's going to be even more happy. And that's being flexible. I think that if you treat the hobby that way, I think you're always going to be successful. It's always going to get done. Like a lot of people have said already, there's always going to be the icing on the cake. There's always going to be the candles are always going to be lit. So, you don't have to worry about it that way. Anxiety and stress are parts of life that every single one of us has to deal with. You just have to find that way personally to get through it. With modeling, it's no different than being an engineer or working construction or driving a truck. It's just the ways you have to find to be flexible and understand and how to work around that stress. We don't have the stress, of a doctor, but we do have stress. So we just got to remember that. And it's just plastic. It's just paint in the long run. And what we do with it is what we do with it. So that's my opinion.
One thread that I think kind of was through everything that all of us have said is sort of that idea of whether you're writing down a list or you're just setting goals. I'm wondering if, doing that and then checking boxes, so to speak, that's what I call it, checking boxes. If that doesn't help, projects come to completion, just because when you do check that box and you do, as TJ said, eat that small bite of elephant, I think it kind of propels you along in your project. I mean, what do you guys think about that idea of sort of using incremental successes to fuel more successes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned that little tortoise I did. Well, I printed 4 more of them, and that inspires me to see what I can do on the next one. What can I do to make that better? Or look at the A-wing I did as part of that little buddy build with Grant and Rick and Cobra Pla and see what I can do next time, because I've seen some good stuff that I've done and I know I can do better. So each little success is definitely a springboard to the next.
JB, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I hit on it in my section where every little victory matters and you gain momentum and you just keep going and going and going.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'd agree. It's something I found on the Stuart. I was getting a bit overwhelmed with like all the interior parts, and I was just like, this is maybe a bit off a bit more than I could chew. But then one night I just started working on the exhaust parts in the rear engine bay, and I really loved just on these 2 little parts the rust effects I did on them, and just seeing how they turned out. I was just like, okay, they looked really good. I want to see now what I can do with other bits, which pushed me on to just like complete that entire engine assembly. Yeah, just tiny wins can like really push you forward to more wins.
Well, that was good discussion, all. And I look forward to the community's input as well. So, share with us, whether it's through feedback on email, messenger, or just post directly in the Facebook group on how you manage modeling stress. I think we all deal with it in one way, shape, or form. And we all experience it certainly in different ways. And we'd be curious to learn more. Maybe you share something that we'll pick up and help ourselves. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Scott.
Thanks, JB. And before we talk about cross promotion, I want to give a quick shout out to Lee Fogel. Thank you for what you said about the Posse, and hang in there, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and serious meme game about the group build. I liked it. Very well done. Well, the Plastic Posse is just one of several great scale modeling podcasts. I think most of you know that. If you are interested in more scale modeling content, head on over to modelpodcast.com, where you will find links to many other great podcasts about this hobby. We also recommend several excellent modeling blogs and vlogs. We have, Rick Lawler's Propaganda YouTube channel, which we love. Clayton Ockerby's also got a great YouTube channel. Workbench Hobbies. Of course, Uncle Night Shift's, channel is fantastic. Stephen Lee's Sprue Pie with Frets. Chris Wallace's Model Airplane Maker. Jim Bates, A Scale Canadian TV. And David Brian Bridges' DB Scale Model Studio blog. Let me see. I see Jensen holding a bell over there. Jensen, what time is it, man?
Scott, that's a great question. But let me ask my good friend, Mr. Merchman. That's right, everybody. It's time for merch. If you would like to rep the Posse, check out our awesome merch on the Triple B Spring page. You can find coffee mugs, t-shirts, jumpers, or even some of our world-famous Triple B lounge trousers. You can order all of your stylish Plastic Posse merch at the web at www.loungetrousers.com. This is why I'm paid so much.
Thanks, y'all, for riding along with us for episode 101 of the Plastic Posse. We appreciate your support as well as our amazing patrons. We also want to thank Tankcraft, Bases by Bill, Tamiya USA, and AK Interactive for supporting what we do. And remember, the Plastic Posse is available on YouTube. We will return in 2 weeks with our 102nd episode for more discussions about scale modeling. Do you have feedback, suggestions, ideas, or just want to drop us a line? Send your feedback to us via email at plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com. And yeehaw!
Well done. Well done.
One of the ways that you can help support the Plastic Posse is become a Plastic Posse Outrider. If you want to become a Plastic Posse Outrider, it's easy. You can even do it wearing our world famous lounge trousers. Just go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Plastic Posse Podcast, and set up a recurring donation there. These contributions help offset the costs of bringing you the Posse and support community events like the 100 Posse group build. There are 3 different tiers of support starting at just $1 a month. There are some great benefits to being an outrider, like early access to podcasts, premium access to hosts, chance to appear on the Plastic Posse, and Triple P content with social events at our model shows. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Scott, who's going to recognize our deputy marshals.
Thanks, Sean. Let's recognize those amazing deputies. These contributors help the Posse do what we do, and we sincerely thank each of you for your support. We have Glenn Phelan, Patrick Neff, Zach Pease, Robert Halleck, David Wassel, Brett Marcourt, Greg Williams, Nick Wolf, Brian Clark, Sean Earl, Black Hat Scale Models, Ben Hardaway, Craig Jarbo, Adam Jackson, Red Beach One Studios, James Mirando, Mike Norris, Stephen Rodwell, Rick Cooper, Eric Kervina, John Hell, Eric Kane, Logan Hansen, Paul Burdett, Tim Gidcombe, Dan Newman, Robert Blocker, Tyler Moore, Derek Post, Craig Flynn, Scale Model Craft, Hey Bill, Ken Childress, Nick Butta, Drew Gardner, Scott Hall, Frank Perrone, The Voice of Bob, Jeremy Diamond, Ryan Smith, Terry Wilkinson, Chris Lovewell, Andrew Callis, Ethan Eidenmill, Steve Baker, Joe Porche, Patrick Brown, Jay Kidd, Brandon Gentry, Lee Fogel, Robert Klein, Mark Ewing, Toadman, Model Doc, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Workala, John Everett, Uncle Buck, Mark Bradley, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Matt Johnston, almost there, guys, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Previous Seat, Mediocre Middle-Aged Modeler, Dan Knopfel, and the one and only JC Osborne. Whew, man, we got a lot of friends, guys. All right, I'm going to kick it over to TJ to talk about our Posse Foreman.
Yeah, let's not forget our Posse Foreman. This crew is made of Posse Outriders who give the deputy marshals a hand. We would like to thank them for their support. We have David, Dwayne, AK Armor, Bill, JAK, Casey, Therese, Raphael, Russ, Stefan, Mikkel, LeVar, Jill, Mike, Michael, Steve, Scott, Emery, The Krieger, Aussie Modeler, William, Keith, Jeff, Eddie, Ross, Warhoff Models, G. Baker, Tom Stuff, Crazy Loca, Lynn, Cliff, Damien, Cody, Nukeman Mike, Ash, Irish Pat, Paul, iBones Models, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Joel, Chris, Robert, Jamie, MD Models, Papa Seed Munsell, JV, Eric, Matthew, and David.
And of course, our $1 and free Posse Outriders. We appreciate our newest members like Paul, Kurt, and Matt. Lastly, would you kindly consider posting a review of the Triple P on your favorite podcast platform? Each posted review helps our other modelers find the Plastic Posse.